12.43s. The infant formula costs $17.99. Grace's hands won't stop shaking. Her daughter Mia screams in the stroller, 10 months old, burning with fever, 9 hours without food. The cashier crosses her arms. Pay up or walk away. There's a line behind you. Grace reaches for the formula to put it back. Her vision blurs with tears. This is rock bottom. This is the end. Then the pharmacy doors explode open. 5 Hell's Angels. Leather. Boots. Eyes that have seen death. The biggest one looks at Mia, and something in his face breaks completely. Subscribe to my channel and stay with me until the very end of this story. Comment below and tell me which city you're watching from. I want to see how far this journey takes us. $12.43. Grace Hartley counted it again. Quarters, dimes, nickels. A few pennies scraped from the bottom of her purse from between the car seats from the cup holder that hadn't held coffee in weeks because coffee was a luxury she couldn't afford. $12.43. The infant formula cost $17.99. Mia screamed. The sound bounced off the pharmacy walls and hit Grace like a physical blow. 10 months old. 103-degree fever. 9 hours since her last bottle, because Grace had run out of formula that morning and couldn't leave her shift at the truck stop without losing the whole day's pay. Ma'am? The cashier didn't hide her irritation. Blonde hair pulled back too tight, heavy makeup, eyes that said she'd seen 1,000 broke mothers and stopped caring around number 50. There are people waiting. I know. Grace's voice came out as a whisper. You're 5,056 short. The cashier said it loud enough for the businessman behind Grace to huff with impatience, loud enough for the woman with the full cart to shake her head in disgust, loud enough for everyone in the pharmacy to know that Grace Hartley couldn't afford to feed her baby. Mia screamed louder. Her tiny face was red with fever and hunger, and the kind of desperate confusion that only babies feel when the world stops making sense. Please. Grace hated the word. Hated begging. She'd sworn after Nathan that she would never beg again. But her daughter was sick and hungry, and she had nothing left. Nothing but pride, and pride didn't fill bottles. She's got a fever. I'll bring the rest tomorrow. I get paid tomorrow morning, I swear. Do I look like a bank? The cashier crossed her arms. Pay the full amount or step aside. The businessman behind Grace checked his watch. The woman with the cart muttered something under her breath. Something about welfare mothers and bad decisions. Grace stood there, broken, holding a can of formula she couldn't buy while her baby screamed for food she couldn't give. Her hand reached for the formula. To put it back. To walk out empty-handed. To figure out something anything like she always did. Then the doors opened. Not opened. Slammed. 5 men walked in. Leather jackets, heavy boots, patches on their backs that read, Iron Wolves MC, in bold white letters. They moved like they owned the air they breathed, like the laws of physics bent around them instead of the other way around. The cashier's face went white. The businessman practically ran for the exit, suddenly remembering an appointment he'd forgotten. The woman with the cart grabbed her purse and headed for the door, her complaints dying in her throat. Grace grabbed Mia's stroller and pulled it close. Her heart hammered against her ribs. In foster care, she'd learned to recognize danger. Men like this meant trouble. Men like this meant pain. She'd spent 3 years with Nathan learning what happened when powerful men noticed you. Don't look at them. Don't make eye contact. Just get out. She reached for the formula one more time. Leave it. The voice came from above her. Deep, Gravel and smoke and something else. Something that sounded almost like pain. Grace looked up. The man was huge, 6'4" at least, shoulders that blocked out the fluorescent lights, gray-streaked beard that hadn't been trimmed in days, hands the size of dinner plates covered in scars and calluses. His jacket said VP Vice President. His face said he'd seen things that would keep normal people awake for years. But his eyes were locked on Mia. Not threatening, not predatory. They were wet. They were broken. They were looking at her daughter like she was a ghost. "How much is she short?" he asked the cashier without looking away from the baby. "Sir, I don't think I asked you a question." The cashier swallowed. Her attitude evaporated like morning fog. $5.56. The man pulled out his wallet, dropped a $100 bill on the counter like it was nothing. "Ring up everything she's got. Add the fever medicine behind you. The good kind, not the generic crap. And whatever diapers you've got in size 3. Sir, did I stutter?" The cashier grabbed the item so fast she nearly knocked over the register. Grace couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what was happening. "I can't let you do this," she said. "Already doing it." "I don't even know you." "Name's Victor." He still hadn't looked away from Mia. "Hawk, if you're feeling formal. Now you know me." "Why would you— How old—" He cut her off. "What? Your girl, how old is she?" 10 months. Something flashed across Victor's face. Pain. Raw and fresh, like a wound that had never healed. Like someone had reached into his chest and ripped out something vital. "She's beautiful." His voice cracked on the word. "Looks just like—" He stopped, cleared his throat, looked away for the first time since he'd walked in. $84.67, the cashier announced. Her voice was small now. Scared. "Would you like a bag?" "Give her 2 bags. And throw in some food from aisle 3. Crackers, juice, whatever looks like she might eat it." "I don't need—" Grace started. "When's the last time you ate?" The question hit her like a slap. "I'm fine." "That's not what I asked." Victor's eyes found hers for the first time. Gray-blue like storm clouds over the ocean. "You're shaking. You're pale. Your lips are cracked from dehydration, so I'll ask again. When's the last time you ate?" Grace couldn't remember. Yesterday. The day before. She'd given her last package of crackers to Mrs. Jenkins, the elderly neighbor who watched Mia when Grace worked doubles. Mrs. Jenkins was 83, and her arthritis was getting worse, and she refused to take money for babysitting, so Grace paid her in food instead. "It doesn't matter," Grace said. "It matters." Victor took the bags from the cashier and held them out. "She needs you healthy. Can't take care of her if you collapse." Grace stared at the bags. Formula. Medicine. Diapers. Food. More than she'd been able to buy in weeks. From a stranger. A biker. A man covered in patches and tattoos who looked like he could crush her skull with one hand. "Why?" she whispered. Victor didn't answer right away. He looked at Mia again. Really looked. And Grace saw his jaw tighten, saw his hands clench at his sides, saw something in his eyes that she recognized because she saw it in her own mirror every morning. Grief. The kind that never goes away. The kind that becomes part of your bones. "Because nobody helped when it mattered," he finally said. "And I swore I'd never let that happen again." The parking lot was cold. December air bit through Grace's thin jacket as she pushed Mia's stroller toward her car. If you could call it a car. The '99 Honda Civic had been blue once. Now it was mostly rust and prayer. The back bumper hung on with bungee cords. The passenger window was plastic sheeting and duct tape. The engine made sounds that belonged in a horror movie, but it ran most of the time. "This is what you're driving." Grace turned. Victor had followed her out. All 5 bikers had. "It works," she said defensively. In December, one of the younger biker's neck tattoos, shaved head, walked around the car like he was examining a crime scene. "With a baby, it has heat." "Does it?" Grace didn't answer. The heat had stopped working 2 weeks ago. She kept blankets in the back seat for Mia. Victor crouched down and looked under the car. His face darkened. "You've got an oil leak. Bad one." He stood up, wiped his hands on his jeans. "When's the last time you checked the fluids?" The tires are bald. Brake pads are probably gone. And I'm guessing that engine knocks like hell when you start it. It gets us where we need to go. For now," Victor's voice hardened. "Another week, maybe 2, and this thing dies on the highway with your baby in the back seat. That what you want?" Grace's throat tightened. She knew the car was dying. She'd known for months. But mechanics cost money. And money was something she didn't have. "I'll figure it out," she said. "You'll figure it out." Victor repeated the words like they tasted bad. "That what you tell yourself when things fall apart? That you'll figure it out? It's worked so far. Has it?" He gestured at the car, at her worn shoes, at the pharmacy they'd just left. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're drowning, and you're too proud to ask for a hand." Grace's eyes stung. "Don't cry. Don't you dare cry in front of him." "I don't need charity." "Good, because I'm not offering charity." Victor pulled a card from his jacket. Plain white. Black letters. Just a name and a phone number. "I'm offering help. There's a difference." Grace looked at the card, but didn't take it. "What's the catch?" "No catch." There's always a catch. She'd learned that lesson young. In foster homes where kindness came with conditions, in relationships where love meant control, with Nathan who'd started out as a prince and ended up as a prison. Nobody gives something for nothing. Victor studied her for a long moment. Something shifted in his expression. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. "You're right," he said finally. "There is something I want." Grace's stomach dropped. Here it comes. The price. The trap. The thing that would make all of this make sense in the worst possible way. "I want you to call me tomorrow." Victor's voice was quiet, steady. "Let me fix this car so your daughter doesn't freeze to death in the back seat. And maybe," he paused, "maybe let yourself trust that not everyone's out to hurt you." He held out the card again. "That's it. That's the catch." Grace's hand trembled as she took it. Victor Brennan, 5555-847-9923. "Why do you care?" she asked. "You don't know me. You don't know anything about me." "I know enough." Victor stepped back. "I know you're working yourself to death trying to keep that baby fed. I know you're one bad week away from losing everything. And I know that look in your eyes." "What look? The one that says you've been alone so long you forgot what help looks like." Grace couldn't breathe. "Get in the car." Victor's voice softened. "Diesel's going to follow you home. Make sure you get there safe. Tomorrow morning you call me. We'll figure out the rest." "And if I don't call?" Victor almost smiled. "Almost. Then I'll find you anyway. That car's hard to miss." Grace drove home with one eye on the rear-view mirror. The biker Diesel Victor had called him kept a steady distance behind her. Not threatening, just present, watching over her like a guardian angel in leather and chrome. The apartment was freezing when she carried Mia inside. She'd turned off the heat 2 weeks ago. Couldn't afford it. The oven stayed on when she was home, door cracked open, pumping warm air into the tiny kitchen. It wasn't safe. She knew it wasn't safe. But it was better than watching her baby shiver. Mia's fever had dropped by the time Grace got the medicine in her. Small victories, the only kind Grace ever got. She made a bottle with the new formula and held Mia close while she ate. The baby's eyes drooped, fighting sleep, fighting sickness, fighting everything. "I'm sorry," Grace whispered. "I'm so sorry, baby. Mama's trying. I promise I'm trying." Mia finished the bottle and finally slept. Grace put her in the crib second-hand, wobbling, held together with zip ties, and collapsed onto the mattress on the floor. She should eat. The crackers Victor bought were in the bag by the door. Her stomach ached with emptiness, but her body wouldn't move. Her eyes wouldn't stay open. She fell asleep with Victor's card still clutched in her hand. The nightmare came at 3 a.m. Nathan's face, his perfect smile, his hands around her throat, his voice in her ear calm and cold and absolutely certain. "You think you can hide from me? You think you can take my daughter? You belong to me, Grace. You'll always belong to me." She woke up gasping. Mia was crying. Grace stumbled to the crib, heart-pounding hands shaking. Checked the baby's temperature. Normal. Changed her diaper. Made another bottle. 3:47 a.m. She had to be at work by 6. 3 hours of sleep, if she was lucky. This is my life, she thought. This is what survival looks like. Mia fell back asleep. Grace didn't. The truck stop diner smelled like grease and diesel fuel and desperation. Grace moved between tables on autopilot. Coffee here, eggs there. Smile at the trucker who left a decent tip. Ignore the one whose eyes lingered too long. Mia was in the back office, sleeping in her car seat. Doris, the manager, had agreed to let Grace bring her on days when she couldn't find childcare, which was every day now. Mrs. Jenkins had helped before, but she was 83, and her arthritis was getting worse. "I love that baby," she'd told Grace last week, "but I can't keep up with her anymore. I'm sorry, honey." Sorry. Everyone was always sorry. "Order up." The cook slammed the bell. Grace grabbed the plates. Table 4, bacon and eggs. Table 9, pancakes, extra syrup. She was heading back to the counter when Doris grabbed her arm. "Someone's asking for you." Grace's blood went cold. She knew before she turned around. Knew the way you know a storm is coming before the first drop of rain. Nathan sat in the corner booth. Clean shave, expensive suit, perfect smile that had fooled her once back when she was young and stupid and desperate for someone to love her. "Hey, baby." He said it loud enough for the whole diner to hear. "Surprised to see me?" Grace's legs locked. Move, run, get Mia, and go. But she couldn't. Her body remembered the bruises, the broken ribs, the night she'd prayed for death because it would be easier than this. "What do you want?" Her voice came out flat. "Dead." "I want to see my daughter." "She's not your daughter. Birth certificate says different." Nathan's smile widened. It never reached his eyes. It never had. "I've been thinking, Grace. About us. About our family. I made mistakes. I know I did. But I've changed. You don't change. People grow." He spread his hands. "I've got a good job now. Nice apartment. I've been going to therapy, working on myself." He leaned forward. "The judge is going to love that." Grace's stomach dropped. "What judge?" Nathan pulled an envelope from his jacket, slid it across the table. "Custody hearing. 3 weeks from Thursday. I'm suing for full custody of Mia." The words hit her like a bullet. "You can't do that." "Already did." Nathan leaned back, casual, confident, like he'd already won. "You know what a judge sees when he looks at you, a waitress? No education, no family, living in a whole apartment with a space heater and a mattress on the floor. How do you know where I know everything, Grace." His smile turned cold. "I know you work double shifts and still can't afford formula. I know your car is held together with tape. I know that old woman who watched Mia can barely walk anymore." Grace's hands shook. "I also know about Westbrook." The name hit her like ice water. Westbrook. The group home where she'd spent 2 years as a teenager. The incident that had almost landed her in juvenile detention. The file that was supposed to be sealed. "That's sealed," she whispered. "Nothing's sealed when you know the right people." Nathan stood up, dropped a 50 on the table. "I'm giving you a choice, Grace. Come back to me willingly, and we can be a family again. Fight me in court and I'll destroy you." He straightened his tie. 3 weeks, baby. Think about it." He walked out. Grace stood frozen, holding the custody papers, watching her entire world collapse around her. She made it to the bathroom before she shattered. The sobs came hard and violent, her whole body shaking against the cold tile wall. She bit her fist to muffle the sounds. Nathan had found her. 3 states. Different name on the mailbox. Cash only for everything. And he'd still found her. Of course he did. Nathan always found her. Nathan always won. She pulled out her phone with trembling hands. Who could she call? She had no family. Her mother had overdosed when she was 6. Her father was a blank space on a birth certificate. The foster system had taught her one lesson. You're on your own. A lawyer. She needed a lawyer. But lawyers cost money. Money she didn't have. The card. It was still in her pocket. She'd grabbed it that morning without thinking. Victor Brennan. 555-847-9923. Don't do it. You don't know him. He's a stranger. A biker. For all you know, he's worse than Nathan. But Nathan wanted to take Mia. Nathan wanted to put her baby in that house with that monster in that life. Grace dialed. It rang once. Yeah. It's Grace. From the pharmacy. From last night. Silence. Then Victor's voice shifted. Softer. Concerned. The baby okay? She's fine. But something happened. My ex showed up. Her voice cracked. He's suing for custody. And I don't have money for a lawyer. And he knows people, and Where are you? The Truck Stop Diner, off Highway 12. I'm 20 minutes out. Don't move. The line went dead. Grace stared at the phone. What did I just do? 18 minutes later, the motorcycles arrived. Grace watched through the window as 5 Harleys pulled into the lot, Victor in front, the others behind him like soldiers following a general into battle. They walked through the door, and the entire diner went silent. Conversations died. Forks froze halfway to mouths. The cook stopped cooking. Victor crossed the room in 4 strides. His eyes scanned Grace's face, reading the tear tracks, the red eyes, the terror she couldn't hide. Where is he? Gone. He left an hour ago. The papers. Grace handed them over. Watched Victor's face harden as he read. Watched his jaw clench. Watched his hands tighten until the paper crinkled. This is bullshit, he said. Half of this is fabricated. It doesn't matter. He has money, lawyers, connections. Grace's voice broke. I have nothing. You have us. Another biker stepped forward. Bull his patch red. President. Gray beard. eyes that had seen everything and judged nothing. "Hawk called us on the way here," Bull said. "Told us the situation. This girl's under our protection now." "Her and the baby," another biker added. "Anyone comes for them, they come through us first." Grace's legs buckled. Victor caught her before she hit the floor. "Hey." His voice dropped, gentle now. "Hey, look at me." She looked up, met his eyes, saw something there she didn't recognize. "You're not alone anymore." He said the words like a promise, like a vow. "You understand me, whatever it takes, whatever we have to do. That man is never going to touch your daughter. You can't promise that. Watch me." They moved her that night, not to a shelter, not to a motel, to a small apartment above the Iron Wolves clubhouse, clean, warm, safe. "It's not fancy," Victor said, setting down the last box. "But nobody gets up here without going through us first." Mia was already asleep in the corner. Rosa Bull's wife had bundled her in blankets and sung her down while the men carried boxes. "I'll pay rent," Grace said, "as soon as I can." "We'll figure that out later." "I mean it. I'm not a charity case." "Never said you were." Victor walked to the window, looked out at the parking lot full of motorcycles. "You remind me of someone." "Who?" For a long moment he didn't answer. "My daughter, Rachel." His voice cracked on the name. "She was 23 when she died." Grace's breath caught. "She had a baby, Sophie, 11 months old." His hands gripped the windowsill. "Same age as Mia." "What happened?" "Drunk driver, red light, killed them both." Victor's shoulders shook. "I was supposed to pick them up that day. I was running late. If I'd been there, it wasn't your fault." "Doesn't matter." He turned to face her. His eyes were wet. "I couldn't save them. I spent 3 years wishing I could change it. Drinking, fighting, trying to die without having the guts to do it myself." "Victor, but then I saw you." His voice broke. "In that pharmacy, counting coins, crying, fighting for your baby with everything you had. And I thought maybe this is why I'm still here. Maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. I can't replace your daughter." "You're not replacing her." He crossed the room, stopped in front of her. "You're giving me a reason to be the man she always believed I was. Let me help you. Please." Grace stood there, 24 years old, exhausted, terrified, holding together by threads. She'd never trusted anyone in her life, but she trusted him. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." Victor nodded, just once. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow we find you a lawyer." He walked toward the door. "Victor?" He stopped. "Thank you." He didn't turn around. "Don't thank me yet. We've got a long fight ahead." And somewhere across town, in a high-rise apartment worth more than Grace would make in 10 lifetimes, Nathan Calloway poured himself a scotch and smiled. His phone buzzed. "Tell me." "She's at the Iron Wolves clubhouse, north side. They moved her tonight." Nathan swirled his drink, watched the light play through the amber liquid. "Interesting. She found herself some muscle. You want me to back off?" "No." Nathan's smile widened. "I want you to dig. Every member of that club. Every business they run, every skeleton in every closet. Find me something I can use. That's going to take time." "I have 3 weeks." Nathan drained his glass. "By the time I'm done, Grace Hartley is going to wish she'd never been born." He ended the call, walked to the window, looked out at the city lights below. "Run all you want, baby," he whispered. "You're still mine." 3 days passed. Grace woke each morning expecting the other shoe to drop, expecting Victor to change his mind, expecting the kindness to reveal its price the way kindness always did in her life. It never happened. Rosa knocked on her door every morning with breakfast. "You're too thin," she said on the second day, pushing a plate of eggs and bacon into Grace's hands. "Mia needs you strong. Eat. I can't keep taking from you. It's not taking. It's family." Rosa's eyes softened. "You don't know what that means yet, but you will." Bull stopped by in the afternoons to check on her. Diesel brought toys for Mia, stuffed animals, rattles things his own grandkids had outgrown. A biker named Wrench fixed the leak in her bathroom sink without being asked. And every evening Victor came. He never stayed long, just long enough to see Mia, to watch her grab at his beard with her tiny fingers, to let something in his hard face crack open for just a moment. "She's gaining weight," he said on the third night. "The formula's working." "She's eating better." Grace stood in the small kitchen making coffee she didn't really want, because it gave her hands something to do. "Sleeping better, too. The fever's completely gone." "Good." Victor let Mia wrap her fingers around his thumb. "That's good." Silence settled between them, the comfortable kind, the kind Grace didn't know existed. "I called a lawyer today," Victor said. "Patricia Webb. She's good, grew up around the club. Her dad was a member back in the day. Now she runs a family law practice downtown." When Grace's hands tightened on the coffee mug. "I can't afford a lawyer. She's doing it pro bono." "Why?" "Because I asked her to." Victor looked up. "And because she hates men like your ex. The ones who use money and power to hurt women who can't fight back." Grace wanted to argue, wanted to say she didn't need charity, but she was so tired of fighting alone. "When does she want to meet?" "Tomorrow. 10 o'clock. I'll drive you." "You don't have to." "Grace." Victor's voice was firm but not unkind. "Let me help. That's all I'm asking. Just let me help." Mia gurgled and slapped at his beard. For a moment, Victor's eyes glistened. "Okay," Grace whispered. "Okay." The next morning, Victor drove her downtown on the back of his Harley. Mia stayed with Rosa, who had practically adopted the baby as her own grandchild. "She'll be fine," Rosa had promised, bouncing Mia on her hip. "Go handle your business. We'll be here when you get back." Patricia Webb's office was on the 4th floor of an old brick building, but inside everything was sharp and organized. Degrees on the walls, case files in neat stacks, a woman behind the desk who looked like she could argue God himself into submission. "Grace Hartley." Patricia stood and extended her hand. Mid-40s. Sharp eyes, hair pulled back in a no-nonsense bun. "I've heard a lot about you. From Victor, from the papers your ex filed." Patricia gestured to the chairs across from her desk. "Sit down. We have a lot to discuss." Victor took the chair by the door. Grace sat across from Patricia and felt like she was waiting for a verdict. "I'm going to be straight with you," Patricia said, opening a folder. "Nathan Calloway has money. He has connections. And he has a legal team that specializes in making mothers look unfit." Grace's stomach dropped. "So I'm going to lose." "I didn't say that." Patricia leaned forward. "I said he has resources, but resources don't win cases. Evidence wins cases. And right now, all Nathan has is money and accusations. He has my juvenile record, which is sealed. He got access somehow." Patricia's eyes narrowed. "That's interesting. Sealed records don't unseal themselves." She made a note. "I'll look into how he obtained that information. If he did it illegally, it's inadmissible, and it might give us grounds for a countersuit." For the first time in days, Grace felt something like hope. What do you need from me? Everything. Patricia pulled out a legal pad. Start from the beginning. How you met Nathan, what the relationship was like, why you left. Every detail, no matter how small. Grace took a breath, and she told her everything. The way Nathan had swept into her life when she was 21, working at a coffee shop, barely surviving. He'd been charming, attentive, the first person who'd ever made her feel seen. The flowers, the compliments, the future he promised. The first time he hit her 6 months into the relationship, the apologies afterward, the promises it would never happen again. It happened again, and again, and again. The pregnancy that was supposed to change everything. Nathan's excitement, the nursery he built, the life he painted in words so beautiful she almost believed them. Then Mia was born. He wanted a son, Grace said, her voice hollow. When they told him it was a girl, something changed in his eyes. He looked at Mia like she was defective. Patricia's pen stopped moving. Did he ever hurt Mia? No. He wouldn't touch her, wouldn't hold her, wouldn't even look at her. Grace's throat tightened. But he hurt me in front of her, while she was in the room. How often? Every week, sometimes more. Victor shifted in his chair. Grace couldn't look at him, couldn't bear to see what was in his eyes. I left when Mia was 2 months old, she continued. Nathan was at work. I packed one bag, took everything I could carry, drove 3 days straight until I ended up here. Did you file a police report? No. Why not? Grace laughed bitterly. Nathan has cops on his payroll. He told me once when he was drunk. Said if I ever tried to report him, he'd have me arrested instead. Said he had friends who could make anything happen. Patricia set down her pen. Grace, look at me. Grace looked up. I've handled cases like this before. Men who think their money makes them untouchable. Men who use the system to abuse women who can't fight back. Patricia's voice was steel. They're not untouchable. And we're going to prove it. How? By building a case so solid that no judge in their right mind would give him custody. Patricia stood and walked to her filing cabinet. I need documentation, medical records, photos, anything that shows what he did to you. I don't have any of that. Did you ever go to the hospital? Once. I told them I fell. Did anyone else know about the abuse, friends, neighbors? Mrs. Jenkins, my neighbor back in Ohio. She heard us fighting once, saw the bruises. I'll need her contact information. Patricia pulled out another folder. What about character witnesses? People who can speak to what kind of mother you are. Grace's voice cracked. I don't have anyone. You have us. Victor's voice cut through the room. Both women turned to look at him. Every member of this club has watched Grace with that baby, he said. Every one of them can testify to what kind of mother she is. Rosa, Bull, the other wives. They've all seen it. Patricia's eyebrows rose. You're offering to have Iron Wolves members testify in a custody hearing, if that's what it takes. Nathan's lawyers will have a field day with that. They'll paint her as someone who exposes her child to dangerous criminals. Then we show them who we really are. Victor stood up. We're not what people think. Most of us have families, kids, grandkids. We run legitimate businesses, pay our taxes, follow the law. Most of the time, Patricia said dryly. When it counts. Victor's jaw tightened. That little girl deserves to stay with her mother, and we're going to make damn sure that happens. Patricia studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. All right, I'll need affidavits from anyone willing to testify, detailed accounts of Grace's parenting, and I'll need the club's financial records to prove the businesses are legitimate. Done. I'll also need you to keep a low profile, Grace. No incidents, no altercations, nothing Nathan's lawyers can use against you. I understand. Good. Patricia gathered her files. The hearing is in 18 days. That's not a lot of time, but if we work together, we can build a defense. They walked out of Patricia's office into the cold December air. Victor handed Grace the spare helmet without a word. Thank you, she said, for finding her, for all of this. Don't thank me yet. Victor swung onto the bike. We've got a long road ahead. Grace climbed on behind him, wrapped her arms around his waist. Victor. Yeah. Why did you really help me that night in the pharmacy? You didn't know anything about me. Didn't know I was running from someone. Didn't know about Nathan. Victor didn't answer right away. The engine rumbled beneath them. You really want to know? Yes. He turned his head slightly. Just enough for her to hear. Because when I saw Mia crying in that stroller, I saw Sophie, my granddaughter, 11 months old when she died. His voice cracked. And when I saw you counting those coins, I saw Rachel, my daughter, fighting for her baby with everything she had. Grace's arms tightened around him. I couldn't save them, Victor said. I was 20 minutes late. 20 minutes. And by the time I got there, the ambulance was already gone. I'm so sorry. I spent 3 years drinking myself to death, hoping I'd crash the bike, hoping something would end it. He kicked the bike into gear. Then I saw you, and I thought maybe this is my second chance. Maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. Help people who need it, the way I should have helped them. They rode in silence back to the clubhouse. Grace held on tight, her face pressed against the leather of his jacket, crying tears that the wind swept away before they could fall. A week passed. Grace fell into a rhythm. Mornings with Mia, afternoons working at the auto shop the club owned, answering phones, scheduling appointments, making herself useful. Evenings helping Rosa cook dinner for whoever showed up hungry. She'd never had a routine before. Never had people who expected her to be somewhere. Not because they needed something from her, but because they wanted her there. It was terrifying. It was wonderful. You're good with the customers, Bull told her one afternoon. He'd stopped by the shop to check on things and found Grace charming a grumpy old man whose truck needed a new transmission. Really good. I worked at a diner for 2 years. You learn to handle difficult people. This one's more than difficult. That's Earl Patterson. He's been coming here for 15 years and never once said thank you. He said it today. Grace smiled. Twice. Bull laughed a deep rumbling sound that shook his whole body. Rosa was right about you. Right about what? She said you were special. Said there was something about you that reminded her of her sister. Her sister. Bull's smile faded slightly. She died young. Cancer. Left behind 2 kids who had nobody. What happened to them? Rosa raised them. Both of them. Worked 3 jobs to put them through school. He shook his head. That's why she took to you so fast. She knows what it's like to fight for family when the world's trying to tear you apart. Grace's eyes stung. I don't know how to thank her. Thank any of you. You don't have to. That's not how this works. Bull put a heavy hand on her shoulder. You're one of us now, and we take care of our own. That night, Grace put Mia to bed and sat by the window, watching the parking lot below. A few bikes were still there. Music drifted up from the clubhouse. Laughter. Voices. Family. She'd never had one before. Not really. The foster homes had been revolving doors. The group homes had been survival. Nathan had been a prison disguised as love. But this felt different. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Grace's blood went cold. She answered. Hello? Hey, baby. Nathan's voice slithered through the phone like a snake. Miss me? Grace's hand shook. How did you get this number? I told you. I know people. His tone was casual, almost friendly. How's my daughter? She's not your daughter. The law says different. In 17 days, a judge is going to say different too. You're not going to win. Nathan laughed. You think those bikers can protect you? You think that lady lawyer is going to save you? His voice dropped. I know things, Grace. Things about that club. Things that could put every single one of them behind bars. Grace's stomach lurched. You're lying. Am I? She could hear his smile. Ask your friend Victor about the warehouse fire in 2019. Ask him about the insurance money. He paused. Ask him what really happened to Vincent Moreno's operation 3 years ago. You're making this up. Then why are you shaking? Grace looked down. Her hand was trembling so hard the phone nearly slipped from her grip. 17 days, baby. That's all you have left. And when this is over, Mia's coming home with me, where she belongs. The line went dead. Grace sat frozen. Her heart pounded in her ears. Nathan knew about the club, knew things that sounded like leverage, like weapons. She should tell Victor. But what if it was true? What if the people protecting her had secrets that could destroy them all? She didn't sleep that night. When morning came, she found Victor in the clubhouse kitchen drinking coffee and reading the paper like the world wasn't falling apart. We need to talk, she said. Victor looked up, saw her face, set down his cup. What happened? Nathan called me last night. Victor's expression hardened. How'd he get your number? I don't know, but that's not what scared me. Grace sat down across from him. He said he knows things about the club, about you. What kind of things? A warehouse fire in 2019. Insurance money. Grace watched his face carefully. Something about Vincent Moreno. Victor went still. He's lying, Victor said. He's trying to scare you. Is he? The warehouse fire was an accident. Faulty wiring. Insurance paid out because that's what insurance does. And Moreno. Victor's jaw tightened. We helped the feds take down his operation 3 years ago. Anonymous tips. Evidence we'd collected. Half his crew went to prison. So Nathan's fishing. Nathan's desperate. Victor leaned forward. He's trying to shake you. Make you doubt the people protecting you. Don't let him. Is there anything to find? Victor's eyes met hers. Every club has history, Grace. Every person has things they're not proud of. But nothing that would hold up in court. Nothing that would change what's happening here. You're sure? I'm sure. But something flickered in his eyes. Something that looked almost like fear. Grace wanted to believe him. She wasn't sure she did. 2 days later, Patricia called with news. We have a problem. Grace's stomach dropped. What kind of problem? Nathan filed a motion to expedite the hearing. Claims Mia is in immediate danger living at the clubhouse. Patricia's voice was tight with anger. He submitted photographs. Photographs of what? You getting on Victor's motorcycle, walking into the clubhouse, carrying Mia past a row of Harleys. Patricia paused. He's been watching you, Grace. He has someone following you. The world tilted. The judge granted the motion. The hearing is in 5 days. 5 days? Grace's voice cracked. That's not enough time. I know. I'm filing an objection, but I don't think it'll work. Nathan's lawyer is good, connected. He knows how to play the system. Grace's legs gave out. She sank onto the couch phone pressed to her ear, trying to remember how to breathe. There's something else, Patricia said quietly. What? Nathan submitted a character affidavit from someone who claims to have witnessed you neglecting Mia. That's impossible. I've never neglected her. The affidavit is from someone named Margaret Jenkins. Grace's blood turned to ice. Mrs. Jenkins, my neighbor, she signed it, Grace. She signed a sworn statement saying she saw you leave Mia alone in your apartment while you went out drinking. That's a lie. Grace's voice rose. She loves Mia. She helped me take care of her. I believe you, but we need to prove it. Patricia's voice hardened. Nathan got to her somehow, paid her off, threatened her. Something. She's 83 years old. She can barely walk. What could he possibly... Then it hit her. Mrs. Jenkins's grandson, Tommy, the one she always worried about, the one with gambling debts and dangerous friends. Nathan had found her weakness, just like he always did. I need to talk to her, Grace said. I need to find out what he did. Absolutely not. If you contact a witness before the hearing, it could be construed as intimidation. But, Grace, listen to me. I know this is hard, but we have to play this smart. We have 5 days to build our case. Let me do my job. The line went dead. Grace sat in the silence, feeling everything slip through her fingers. 5 days. That was all she had. Victor found her an hour later, still sitting on the couch, still staring at nothing. Patricia called me, he said. Told me what happened. He's going to take her. Grace's voice was hollow. He's going to take my baby. No, he's not. You don't know that. You don't know what he's capable of. Victor sat down beside her, close but not touching, solid and warm. I know what I'm capable of, he said quietly. And I know what this club is capable of. Nathan Calloway thinks he can buy and bully his way to whatever he wants. He's about to find out different. How? Grace looked at him. How can you stop him? Victor was quiet for a moment. Something shifted in his expression, a decision being made. There's something I haven't told you, he said. About Nathan. About his business. What? 3 years ago, his operation crossed paths with ours. He was connected to people we helped take down. We collected information during that time. Insurance, in case things ever went sideways. Grace's heart stopped. You have evidence against Nathan. Enough to bury him. Then why haven't you? Because using it would expose how I got it. Victor's voice dropped. There are things in those files that would implicate me too. Maybe others in the club. So we can't use it. I didn't say that. Victor's eyes met hers. I said using it has consequences. Consequences I'm willing to accept. Victor, you could go to prison. Maybe. He took her hand, squeezed it. But at least I'd know I did the right thing. For once in my miserable life, I'd know I did something that mattered. Tears streamed down Grace's face. Why would you sacrifice everything for us? Victor looked at her for a long moment. Because you gave me something I'd lost, he said. Hope. Purpose. A reason to be better than I was. And he wiped a tear from her cheek. You saved me, Grace. Long before I ever saved you. The clubhouse door opened. Bull walked in. His face was grim. We've got a problem, he said. Nathan's guy, the one following Grace. We caught him. Victor stood. Where is he? Downstairs, tied to a chair. Bull's eyes were hard. And he's talking, a lot. They went downstairs. Grace followed despite Victor telling her to stay. The man in the chair was young, late 20s, expensive clothes now torn and dirty, a camera around his neck, terror in his eyes. Please, he gasped. I was just doing a job, following orders. Bull stood over him like a mountain. Whose orders? Nathan Calloway. He hired me through a PI firm. Said he needed surveillance on his ex. What else did he hire you to do? The man hesitated. Bull's fist connected with his jaw. I asked you a question. Okay. Blood dripped from the man's lip. He wanted dirt on the club, on your businesses, on anything he could use. Did you find anything? No, nothing illegal, I swear. You're all clean. Victor stepped forward. What about the old woman, Margaret Jenkins? Did Nathan send someone to her? The man's face paled. I don't know anything about that. You're lying. I'm not, I just do surveillance. I don't know about any old woman. Victor grabbed him by the collar. Then who does? There's another guy. The man's voice shook. Nathan has another guy who handles the persuasion stuff. Name's Vince. Vincent Moreno. Victor's blood ran cold. Vincent Moreno. The man whose operation they'd helped destroy 3 years ago. The man who'd sworn revenge on everyone involved. Where is he? Victor demanded. I don't know, I swear. We've never met face to face. Victor let him go. Stepped back. Looked at Bull. Moreno's bad news, Bull said quietly. He's connected. Cartel money. Dirty cops. I know. If he's involved in this, it's bigger than a custody case. I know. Grace's voice cut through the tension. Who is Vincent Moreno? Neither man answered. Tell me. Her voice hardened. If my daughter is in danger, I deserve to know. Victor turned to face her. His expression was the hardest she'd ever seen. Moreno is a fixer. He makes problems disappear. Witnesses, evidence, people. His voice dropped. 3 years ago, he worked for a drug ring we helped shut down. Half his guys went to prison. He swore revenge on everyone involved. Including you. Including me. Grace's knees buckled. Bull caught her before she hit the floor. This isn't just about custody anymore, she whispered. Nathan didn't hire Moreno to help him win in court. No, Victor said. He didn't. Then what does he want? Victor's eyes were dark with something she'd never seen before. Fear. He wants to destroy us, all of us, and he's using you to do it. Mia's cries pulled Grace back from the edge of panic. She pushed past Victor, and Bull took the stairs 2 at a time, burst through the apartment door. Mia stood in her crib face, red with tears, arms reaching for her mother. I'm here. Grace scooped her up, held her tight against her chest. Mama's here. You're okay. You're okay. But she wasn't okay. None of them were. Victor appeared in the doorway. His face had aged 10 years in the last 10 minutes. We need to talk, he said, about what happens next. What happens next is you tell me everything. Grace's voice shook with anger and fear. No more secrets, no more half-truths. If my daughter is in danger, I need to know exactly what we're dealing with. Victor nodded slowly. Fair enough. He sat down on the old armchair Rosa had brought up from the clubhouse. Grace stayed standing, Mia clinging to her neck. Vincent Moreno worked for the Medina cartel, Victor began. Small-time operation, mostly moving product up from the border. 3 years ago, they tried to expand into our territory. We pushed back. Pushed back how? We gave information to the feds, anonymous tips, evidence we'd collected over months. Victor's jaw tightened. Half of Moreno's crew went to prison. The cartel cut ties with him. He lost everything. And now he's working for Nathan. Looks that way. Why, what does Nathan have that Moreno wants? Money, access, protection. Victor leaned forward. Nathan's not just some rich guy with connections, Grace. He's tied to people who move serious weight. The kind of people who can make a man like Moreno useful again. Grace felt sick. I didn't know. When I was with him, I never... How could you men like Nathan are experts at hiding what they really are? Victor's voice softened. This isn't your fault. None of it. But it is my problem. Our problem. Victor stood up. This club took you in, made you family. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Even if it means prison, even then. Mia had stopped crying. She was watching Victor with those big, curious eyes the same way she'd watched him that first night in the pharmacy. What do we do now? Grace asked. Now we prepare. The hearing is in 4 days. Patricia needs that evidence I told you about, and we need to figure out what Moreno is planning before he makes his move. How? Victor's face hardened. I know some people. People who owe me favors. It's time to call them in. He walked toward the door. Victor. He stopped. Be careful. Please. Something flickered in his eyes. Something almost like hope. Always. The next morning, the clubhouse was buzzing with tension. Grace came downstairs to find Bull at the main table, surrounded by maps, phones, and laptops. Half a dozen other club members sat around him, their faces grim. What's going on? Bull looked up. War Council. War, not that kind. He gestured for her to sit. We're tracking Moreno's movements, trying to figure out what Nathan's got planned. Did you find anything? Some. Bull slid a photograph across the table. A man with slicked back hair and dead eyes stared up at her. Vincent Moreno, 53 years old. 2 arrests, no convictions. The feds have been trying to pin something on him for years. He looks... Grace couldn't find the word. Evil. Bull nodded. He is. The things this man has done would keep you awake for the rest of your life. And he's working with Nathan. They met 3 times in the past week. Our guy caught them at a restaurant downtown. Very cozy, very friendly. Grace's hands clenched. What does Nathan want from him? That's what we're trying to figure out. Bull pulled up another photograph. A building. Nondescript. Industrial. This is Moreno's current base of operations. Warehouse on the east side. Our sources say he's been bringing in extra muscle. For what? Bull exchanged a look with one of the other members. A silent conversation Grace couldn't read. Bull. For what? We don't know yet, but it's not good. The front door opened. Victor walked in, followed by a woman Grace had never seen before. She was beautiful, late 50s, silver-streaked hair, the kind of face that had once turned heads everywhere she went, but her eyes were red-rimmed, and she moved like someone carrying a weight too heavy for her shoulders. Victor saw Grace and stopped. Grace, this is Helen, my ex-wife. The room went silent. Helen's eyes traveled over Grace's face down to Mia in her arms, back up again. Something complicated moved through her expression. Pain, recognition, understanding. So you're the one, Helen said. Her voice was hoarse. The one he's been protecting. I didn't ask for... I know you didn't. Helen cut her off. Victor told me everything. About the pharmacy, about your ex, about all of it. Then you know I'm not trying to replace... Stop. Helen held up her hand. I didn't come here to fight with you. I came because Victor asked me to. Grace looked at Victor. You called her. I needed to. His voice was heavy. There are things about Nathan that Helen knows. Things that might help. Helen pulled out a chair and sat down. Her movements were slow, deliberate, like every action cost her something. Before Rachel died, she said she was dating someone. A man who seemed perfect at first. Charming, successful, attentive. Grace's blood went cold. Nathan, no, but the same type. Helen's eyes found hers. I didn't see the signs. I thought she was happy. By the time I realized what was really going on, it was too late. What happened? He hit her, once. She left him that same night. Helen's voice cracked. But she didn't tell us. Didn't tell anyone. She thought she could handle it alone. Victor put a hand on Helen's shoulder. She didn't shake it off. A month later, she was dead. Helen continued. The accident wasn't random. The drunk driver who hit her, he worked for the man she'd been dating. The police couldn't prove anything. But we knew. Grace couldn't breathe. You think he had her killed? I think powerful men don't like being rejected. Helen wiped her eyes. I think my daughter died because she tried to leave someone who couldn't accept losing. The words hung in the air like smoke. That's why I'm here, Helen said. When Victor told me about you, about what you're running from, I couldn't stay away. I couldn't let another young mother face this alone. You don't owe me anything. No, but I owe Rachel. Helen reached out and touched Mia's cheek. The baby stared at her with wide eyes. I couldn't save my daughter, but maybe I can help save yours. Grace felt tears building behind her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. Helen shook her head. Don't thank me yet. I haven't told you the useful part. What useful part? I kept records. After Rachel died, I became obsessed with men like the one who hurt her. Men like your Nathan. Helen pulled a folder from her bag. 6 months ago, I found a connection. Nathan Calloway was doing business with the same network that destroyed my daughter. Bull leaned forward. What kind of business? Money laundering, drug trafficking, and something else. Helen opened the folder. There's a woman. A federal prosecutor named Rebecca Torres. She's been building a case against Nathan's network for 2 years. She's close. Very close. Victor's eyes narrowed. How do you know this? Because I reached out to her after Rachel died. Helen's voice hardened. I told her everything I knew. She couldn't use most of it, but she believed me. And she's been feeding me information ever since. Why didn't you tell me? Victor demanded. Because you were drowning in whiskey and self-pity. Helen met his eyes without flinching. And because I wasn't sure I could trust you to be useful. But now, she looked at Grace and Mia. Now you've got something worth fighting for. And so do I. Bull slammed his hand on the table. This changes everything. If we can connect with this prosecutor, give her what we have on Nathan. It's not that simple. Helen cut him off. Rebecca can't know about the club's involvement. If she finds out you're connected to this, it compromises her whole case. Then how do we use this? Carefully. Helen pulled another document from the folder. Nathan's custody hearing is in 4 days. If he wins, he takes Mia. If he loses, he'll disappear. Go somewhere the feds can't reach him. So we have to make sure he loses, Grace said. Yes, but more than that. Helen's eyes were hard. We have to make sure he can't run, which means we need to coordinate with Rebecca. Time everything perfectly. Victor ran a hand through his hair. This is getting complicated. It's been complicated since the moment Grace walked into that pharmacy. Helen stood up. I need to make some calls, see if I can set up a meeting with Rebecca. She walked toward the door, then stopped. Victor? Yeah. I'm sorry. For what I said after Rachel died. For blaming you. Her voice wavered. I was wrong. You're a good man. You always were. Victor didn't respond, but Grace saw something shift in his face. Something that had been frozen for 3 years beginning to thaw. Helen left. The room exhaled. Well, Bull said, that was unexpected. Tell me about it. Victor sank into a chair. I haven't seen her in 2 years. Thought she hated me. Maybe she did. Bull shrugged. People change. Grace sat down next to Victor Mia, drowsy in her arms. "She's right, you know," she said quietly, "about you being a good man." Victor shook his head. "I'm not." "You are." Grace cut him off. "You just don't see it yet." Their eyes met. Something passed between them, something neither of them was ready to name. Mia yawned and snuggled closer to her mother. "Get some rest," Victor said. "Both of you. Tomorrow's going to be a long day." The next day, everything changed. It started with a phone call at 6 in the morning. Patricia's voice was sharp with panic. "They moved the hearing?" Grace sat up in bed, heart pounding. "What? Nathan's lawyers filed an emergency motion last night. The judge granted it." Patricia took a breath. "The hearing is tomorrow, Grace. 9 o'clock tomorrow morning." "That's impossible. We're not ready." "I know. That's why I'm calling." Patricia paused. "There's something else." "What?" Nathan submitted new evidence. A recording. Grace's blood turned to ice. "What recording?" "A conversation between you and someone named Victor Brennan. Nathan's claiming it proves you've been conspiring with criminals to keep Mia away from her father." The room spun. "He was recording us." "Someone was. My guess is the PI or Moreno's people." Patricia's voice tightened. "Grace, I need you to tell me exactly what was said in every conversation you've had with Victor. Every word." Grace tried to think, tried to remember, but her mind was a hurricane of terror. "I don't know. We talked about the custody case, about my past, about Nathan being dangerous." "Did Victor ever mention doing anything illegal to protect you?" "No. I mean, he said he had evidence against Nathan, but he didn't say how he got it." Patricia cursed. "That's probably enough. If Nathan's lawyers can frame that as a conspiracy to obstruct justice, we weren't conspiring. We were trying to protect Mia." "I know that, but perception matters. And right now the perception is that you moved in with a motorcycle gang and started plotting against your child's father." Grace wanted to scream, wanted to break something, wanted to go back in time and never walk into that pharmacy, but she couldn't do any of those things. "What do? We fight?" Patricia's voice steadied. "Get Victor. Get everyone. We're having a war council of our own." An hour later, Patricia arrived at the clubhouse. The main room was packed. Bull, Victor, Rosa, Helen, a dozen other club members and their wives, all of them ready to fight. Patricia spread her files across the table. "Here's where we stand. Nathan has money connections and a recording that makes Grace look like she's conspiring with criminals. The judge is already sympathetic to his claims about Mia being in danger." "What do we have?" Bull asked. "Character witnesses, documentation of Grace's parenting." Patricia looked at Victor. "And evidence of Nathan's criminal activity. If we can use it." "Use it," Victor said. "All of it." "Victor," Patricia's voice sharpened. "I told you if we use that evidence, it exposes how you obtained it. You could go to prison." "I don't care." "You should care." Patricia leaned forward. "If you go to prison, who protects Grace? Who protects Mia? You think Nathan's just going to forget about the club once he has custody?" "She's right." Bull's voice was heavy. "We need you out here, brother. Not behind bars." "Then what do you suggest?" Victor's frustration boiled over. "We just let him take her." "No." A new voice cut through the argument. Everyone turned. Helen stood in the doorway, phone in hand. "I just got off the phone with Rebecca Torres," she said. "The federal prosecutor, she's willing to meet. Tonight." Patricia's eyes widened. "She's willing to coordinate more than that." Helen walked to the table. "She's been building a case against Nathan for 18 months. She's close to an indictment, but she needs one more thing." "What?" "A witness." Helen's eyes found Grace. Someone inside Nathan's operation who's willing to testify. Every head turned. Grace's heart stopped. Me, you lived with him for almost a year. You saw things, heard things, even if you didn't understand what they meant at the time. I didn't know anything about his business. Are you sure? Helen pressed. Think Grace. Late-night phone calls, visitors at strange hours, places he told you to never look. Grace closed her eyes, tried to remember. The memories were painful, tangled with fear and shame. But they were there. There was a room, she said slowly. In the basement. He kept it locked, told me it was for business records. Did you ever see inside? Once, by accident. He didn't know I was home. Grace's voice trembled. There were files, equipment, phones, computers, things I didn't understand. Patricia scribbled notes. Could you identify anything specific? I don't know, maybe. Grace opened her eyes. I was scared. I didn't look closely. But you could describe the room, the setup. Yes. That might be enough. Patricia looked at Helen. Can you get us a meeting with Torres tonight? Already done. 8 o'clock, downtown. Bull shook his head. This is moving too fast. We don't know if we can trust this prosecutor. We don't have a choice. Victor stood up. The hearing is tomorrow. If we don't do something drastic, Grace loses Mia forever. And if this goes wrong, we all go down. Then we go down fighting. Victor looked around the room. That's what this club has always done. We protect our own, no matter the cost. Silence fell. Then Bull nodded slowly. All right. We do this your way. He pointed at Victor. But if this blows up in our faces, you're buying drinks for the rest of your life. Despite everything, Victor almost smiled. Deal. The meeting with Rebecca Torres happened in a parking garage downtown. Neutral territory. No witnesses. Victor drove Grace in a truck instead of his bike. Less conspicuous. Harder to follow. Helen met them at the entrance. She's on the 3rd level, alone, like she promised. You trust her? Victor asked. With my life. Helen's eyes were steady. She's the only person who believed me about Rachel. She's been fighting for justice longer than any of us. They walked up the ramp together. Rebecca Torres was leaning against a concrete pillar, arms crossed, late 30s, sharp suit, eyes that missed nothing. You must be Grace. She didn't offer her hand. Helen told me about your situation. She told me about yours too. Then you know I've been chasing Nathan Calloway for a long time. Rebecca pushed off the pillar. He's slippery, smart, knows how to cover his tracks. I've been building a case for 18 months and I'm still missing pieces. What kind of pieces? Physical evidence of his operation. Witness testimony about his methods. Rebecca studied Grace's face. Helen thinks you can help with both. I don't know what I can offer. Tell me about the room, the one in the basement. Grace took a breath and described what she'd seen. The locked door, the files, the electronic equipment. Rebecca listened without interrupting. That sounds like a communications hub, she said when Grace finished. Nathan uses burner phones to coordinate with his suppliers. If we could get access to that room... It's his property, Victor cut in. We can't just walk in. No, but we might not have to. Rebecca's eyes narrowed. The custody hearing is tomorrow. If Nathan thinks he's going to win, he'll be focused on that, not on his operation. You want to raid him while he's in court. I want to execute a search warrant that I've been sitting on for 6 months. Rebecca smiled thinly. The timing would be convenient. What do you need from us? Grace asked. Your testimony. A sworn statement describing what you saw in that room. It won't be enough for a conviction on its own, but combined with what I already have, it'll give me probable cause for the warrant. And the custody hearing, that's Patricia Webb's problem. Rebecca's tone softened slightly. But I can tell you this. If Nathan is arrested before the judge makes a decision, the whole case falls apart. No father, no custody dispute. Grace's heart raced. You could arrest him tomorrow. If everything goes right. Rebecca paused. But I need you to understand the risks. If Nathan finds out what we're planning, he runs, disappears, takes his operation underground, starts again somewhere else. He won't find out. Victor stepped forward. We'll make sure of it. Rebecca looked at him. Really looked. You're Victor Brennan, the one Helen told me about. Yes. She says you have evidence, things that could help my case. Victor hesitated, looked at Grace, then back at Rebecca. I have documentation of Nathan's connections to Vincent Moreno, financial records, communications, enough to prove they've been working together. How did you obtain this documentation? Does it matter? It matters to a judge. Rebecca crossed her arms. If the evidence was obtained illegally, I can't use it. Then don't use it in court. Victor's voice hardened. Use it to know where to look, what questions to ask. I'll give you the roadmap. You find your own evidence. Rebecca considered this. That could work. She paused. But there's something else. What? Moreno is planning something. We don't know what yet. But he's been gathering muscle, preparing for something big. Related to Nathan, related to you. Rebecca's expression darkened. We've been tracking his communications. He knows you helped take down his operation 3 years ago. He's been waiting for payback. So this isn't just about custody. It's about revenge. Victor's jaw tightened. It's about all of it. Nathan wants Mia, Moreno wants blood, and we're standing in the middle of both. Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. All right, she finally said. Here's what we're going to do. Grace gives me her statement tonight. I use it to activate the warrant. Tomorrow morning while Nathan's in court, my team hits his property. And if you find what you're looking for, then I walk into that courthouse and arrest him in front of the judge. Rebecca's smile was cold. Custody dispute over. Grace felt hope surge through her chest. Real hope, the first she'd felt in days. Thank you, she said. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Rebecca pulled a recorder from her pocket. Let's get your statement. We've got a long night ahead of us. They returned to the clubhouse at midnight. Grace was exhausted, but wired. Too much adrenaline. Too much fear. Too much hope. Victor walked her to the apartment door. Try to get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be intense. I don't think I can sleep. Try anyway. He started to turn away. Victor. He stopped. What happens after tomorrow if this works? If Nathan gets arrested and I keep Mia, then you get to live your life. His voice was soft. Whatever that looks like. What if I want it to look like this? Grace gestured at the clubhouse around them. This place. These people. You. Victor was quiet for a long moment. You deserve better than an old biker with too much baggage. Maybe I don't want better. She stepped closer. Maybe I want someone who showed up when I had nothing. Someone who risked everything to protect my daughter. Someone who looked at Mia like she was Sophie. Victor's voice cracked. I know. That's why that's not what I was going to say. Grace reached up and touched his face. You look at Mia like she matters, like she's worth fighting for, like she's family. She is family. They stood there inches apart, the weight of everything between them. "After tomorrow," Victor said quietly. "If we survive this, we'll talk. Promise. Promise." He turned and walked away. Grace watched him go. Then she went inside, checked on Mia, and lay down on the bed. Tomorrow would decide everything. But tonight, for just a few hours, she let herself believe in a future she'd never dared imagine. The morning came too fast. Grace opened her eyes at 5:47 a.m., 13 minutes before her alarm. Mia was still sleeping, one tiny fist pressed against her cheek, breathing soft and steady. Today. Everything happens today. She got up quietly, showered, put on the clothes Rosa had bought her for the hearing. A simple navy dress, low heels, nothing flashy, nothing that said biker's girlfriend or unfit mother or any of the other labels Nathan's lawyers would try to pin on her. Patricia had been clear. Look respectable. Sound respectable. Be the mother that judge wants to give custody to. By 7 o'clock, the clubhouse was alive with tension. Victor met her at the bottom of the stairs. He was wearing a suit. Grace had never seen him in anything but leather and denim. The transformation was startling. He looked older, softer, like someone's father or grandfather. "You clean up nice," she said, trying to smile. "Don't get used to it." But his eyes were warm. "You ready?" "No." "Good. That means you're taking it seriously." Bull appeared behind him, also in a suit. Rosa, Helen, half a dozen other club members and their wives, all dressed like they were going to church instead of war. "We'll be in the gallery," Bull said. "Every one of us. That judge is going to see exactly who's supporting you." "Won't that make things worse? Nathan's lawyers can go to hell." Rosa took Grace's hands. "You're not alone. You were never alone. And today everyone in that courtroom is going to know it." Mia woke up crying. Grace went to her, held her close, breathed in the baby shampoo smell of her hair. "It's okay, sweet girl. Mama's going to fix everything. I promise." She prayed it wasn't a lie. They arrived at the courthouse at 8:30. Patricia was waiting on the steps, briefcase in hand, game face on. "Rebecca's team is in position," she said quietly. "The warrant's been signed. They're hitting Nathan's property at 9:15, right after the hearing starts. What if they don't find anything? They'll find something. Your statement gave them everything they need. Now we just have to buy time." "How long? An hour, maybe 2. Patricia looked at Mia in Grace's arms. "Keep her calm. Keep yourself calm. And whatever Nathan's lawyers throw at you, don't react. Don't give them anything they can use." "What are they going to throw at me?" Patricia hesitated. "Patricia, tell me." "They're going to try to paint you as unstable, violent, unfit." Patricia's jaw tightened. "They'll bring up your foster care history, the incident at Westbrook. They'll twist everything you've ever done into evidence that Mia isn't safe with you." It's when Grace's stomach churned. "And I just have to sit there and take it, for now, yes." Patricia put a hand on her shoulder. "But when it's our turn, we hit back hard." They walked inside. The courtroom was smaller than Grace expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, an American flag behind the judge's bench. It looked ordinary, boring, not like the place where her entire life would be decided. Nathan was already there. He sat at the plaintiff's table with 2 lawyers in expensive suits. His hair was perfect. His tie was straight. He smiled when he saw Grace. The same smile that had charmed her once. The same smile that hid the monster underneath. "Grace." He said her name like they were old friends. "You look tired. Long night? Don't talk to me?" "I'm just concerned about you, about our daughter." He glanced at Mia. She looks thin. Are you feeding her enough? Mr. Calloway. Patricia's voice cut through like a blade. Any communication with my client goes through me. Understood. Nathan's smile didn't waver. Of course. My apologies. The gallery filled up behind them. Victor, Bull, Rosa, Helen, a dozen others. All sitting together. All watching Nathan with barely concealed contempt. Nathan noticed. His smile flickered for just a moment. Good, Grace thought. Be afraid. You should be. The bailiff called the court to order. Oluwaseun arise for the Honorable Judge Patricia Coleman. Everyone stood. The judge entered. Late 50s. Gray hair pulled back severely. Reading glasses perched on her nose. She sat down and surveyed the courtroom like a general assessing a battlefield. Be seated. She opened a folder. We're here today in the matter of Calloway versus Hartley petition for custody of the minor child, Mia Hartley. Mr. Davidson, you may begin. Nathan's lead lawyer stood up. Tall, silver-haired, the kind of man who'd never lost a case, because he'd never fought one he couldn't win. Thank you, Your Honor. My client, Nathan Calloway, is a successful businessman, a pillar of his community, and a devoted father who wants nothing more than to be part of his daughter's life. Grace's fist clenched under the table. Unfortunately, Davidson continued, the respondent Grace Hartley has made that impossible. She fled the state with the child nearly a year ago, denying Mr. Calloway any contact with his daughter. She has since taken up residence with members of a notorious motorcycle gang, exposing the child to an environment rife with criminal activity and potential danger. Objection. Patricia stood. Characterizing the Iron Wolves as a notorious motorcycle gang is prejudicial and inflammatory. Sustained. Judge Coleman fixed Davidson with a hard look. Keep the rhetoric in check, Counselor. My apologies, Your Honor. Davidson didn't look sorry at all. Let me rephrase. Ms. Hartley has chosen to live with individuals who have documented criminal histories. We have evidence that the child has been regularly exposed to these individuals, including being present at their clubhouse, which has been linked to various illegal activities. Patricia stood again. Your Honor, I'd like to see this so-called evidence. In due time, Counselor, Davidson smiled. For now, I'd like to call our first witness, Mrs. Margaret Jenkins. Grace's heart stopped. The door at the back of the courtroom opened. Mrs. Jenkins walked in. She was tiny, frail, 83 years old, and moving like every step hurt. She didn't look at Grace as she made her way to the witness stand. Mrs. Jenkins. Davidson's voice was gentle, solicitous. Thank you for being here today. I know this isn't easy for you. No, Mrs. Jenkins's voice was barely audible. It isn't. Can you tell the court your relationship with Ms. Hartley? I was her neighbor, back in Ohio. I helped take care of Mia sometimes, when Grace had to work. And during that time, did you ever witness anything that concerned you about Ms. Hartley's parenting? Mrs. Jenkins hesitated. Grace stared at her, willing her to look up, to make eye contact, to remember all the times she'd trusted her with Mia, all the times she'd called her a godsend. Mrs. Jenkins, Davidson prompted. I saw some things, yes. What kind of things? One time. The old woman's hands trembled. One time I went to check on them and found Mia alone in the apartment. Grace wasn't there. The gallery murmured. Grace's mouth fell open. That's not true. Ms. Hartley. Judge Coleman's voice was sharp. You will remain silent until it's your turn to speak. Patricia grabbed Grace's arm. Don't. Not now. But she's lying. I know. We'll address it. On the stand, Mrs. Jenkins continued, her voice growing steadier. Rehearsed. There were other times, too. I heard yelling from their apartment. Saw Grace come home late, smelling like alcohol. I was worried about Mia. I tried to talk to Grace about it, but she got angry. Defensive. And is that why you contacted my client? Out of concern for Mia's welfare? Yes. Mrs. Jenkins finally looked at Grace. Her eyes were wet, apologetic, terrified. I'm sorry. I just want what's best for the baby. Something clicked in Grace's mind. Mrs. Jenkins wasn't lying because she wanted to. She was lying because she had to. Nathan had something on her. Her grandson. Tommy. The gambling debts. Something that made a sweet old woman commit perjury in open court. Thank you, Mrs. Jenkins. Davidson returned to his seat. No further questions. Patricia stood. Your Honor, I'd like to cross-examine the witness. Proceed. Patricia approached the stand slowly. Her voice was gentle, non-threatening. Mrs. Jenkins, how long did you know Grace Hartley? About 8 months. And in those 8 months, did you ever see her hit Mia, neglect her, do anything to physically harm her daughter? No, not physically. Did Mia ever appear malnourished, dirty injured? No. Did Grace ever ask you to lie about anything, cover up anything? No. So the concerns you mentioned, the alleged absences, the yelling, the alcohol, these were isolated incidents. Mrs. Jenkins hesitated. I suppose. Mrs. Jenkins. Patricia's voice sharpened. Is there anything you'd like to add to your testimony? Anything you might have forgotten to mention? The old woman's face crumpled. I can't, she whispered. I can't say anything else. They said if I talked, my grandson would... She stopped. Looked at Nathan. Terror flooded her eyes. The courtroom erupted. Order! Judge Coleman banged her gavel. Order in the court. Davidson shot to his feet. Your Honor, the witness is clearly confused. I move to strike her last statement from the record. Denied. Judge Coleman leaned forward. Mrs. Jenkins, what did you mean by that statement? Who told you not to talk? Mrs. Jenkins started crying. I can't. They'll hurt him. They said they'd hurt my Tommy. Patricia pressed forward. Your Honor, I believe this witness has been coerced into providing false testimony. I request a brief recess to... There's no need for a recess. Davidson's voice was calm. Too calm. Mrs. Jenkins is obviously overwhelmed. Perhaps we should move on to our next witness. Your Honor, Patricia started. I'll allow it. Judge Coleman looked troubled, but nodded. The witness is excused. Mr. Davidson, call your next witness. Mrs. Jenkins practically ran from the courtroom, still crying. Grace watched her go, heartbreaking for both of them. We call Mr. Nathan Calloway to the stand. Nathan stood, buttoned his jacket, walked to the witness stand like he was accepting an award. Mr. Calloway. Davidson smiled. Tell us about your relationship with Grace Hartley. We met 3 years ago. I thought she was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. Nathan's voice was warm, sincere, completely convincing. We dated for about 8 months before she got pregnant. I was thrilled. I'd always wanted to be a father. And what happened after Mia was born? Things changed. Nathan's face fell, perfectly rehearsed. Grace became distant, paranoid. She accused me of things I'd never done, started talking about people following her. I was worried about her mental state. Did you ever harm Ms. Hartley? Never. Nathan looked directly at Grace. I loved her. I still love her. All I've ever wanted is to be a family. Grace felt sick. Then why do you think she left? I honestly don't know. Nathan shook his head sadly. One day I came home from work and they were gone. No note. No explanation. I spent months looking for them. When I finally found them, Grace was living with... He glanced at the gallery. Those people, I knew I had to act. Thank you, Mr. Calloway. Davidson sat down. Your witness, Ms. Webb. Patricia stood slowly. Mr. Calloway, you said you never harmed Ms. Hartley. Is that correct? That's correct. Then can you explain this? Patricia pulled a photograph from her folder, handed it to the bailiff. Your Honor, I'd like to submit this as Defense Exhibit A. It's a photograph of Ms. Hartley taken at St. Mary's Hospital in Cleveland, Ohio, approximately 10 months ago. The photograph appeared on the courtroom screen. Grace at 23, face swollen, black eye, split lip, bruises covering her neck. The gallery gasped. Nathan's smile flickered. That photograph is misleading. Grace was in a car accident. I had nothing to do with a car accident. Patricia pulled another document. Then perhaps you can explain why the hospital's intake report lists her injuries as consistent with physical assault and notes that she refused to identify her attacker. She was confused, traumatized by the accident. There was no accident, Mr. Calloway. Patricia's voice hardened. There's no police report, no insurance claim, no record of any vehicle damage. I don't know what to tell you. I wasn't there. No. Patricia pulled another document. Then where were you on the night of March 15th last year? Nathan hesitated. Let me refresh your memory. Patricia's voice was ice. According to phone records obtained by subpoena, you were at your residence. The same residence where Ms. Hartley was living at the time. The same residence she left the following morning, never to return. This is speculation. Is it? Patricia held up another photograph. This is a photo of your living room from March 16th, taken by a crime scene cleanup company you hired. Note the bloodstains on the carpet, the broken glass, the hole in the wall. The courtroom exploded. Order! Judge Coleman's gavel cracked like gunfire. Order! Davidson jumped up. Your Honor, this evidence was not disclosed in discovery. I move to... The evidence was obtained 2 days ago, Patricia interrupted. I filed an emergency motion to include it. Your Honor approved it yesterday. Judge Coleman nodded. I did. Overruled Mr. Davidson. Continue, Ms. Webb. Nathan's perfect composure was cracking. This is a setup. She's working with those criminals to frame me. Mr. Calloway. Patricia's voice was ice. Did you or did you not beat Grace Hartley so severely that she required emergency medical treatment? I never... Did you or did you not threaten to kill her if she ever tried to leave? That's a lie. Did you or did you not hire Vincent Moreno to intimidate witnesses and destroy evidence in this case? Nathan's face went white. I don't know anyone named... The courtroom doors burst open. 6 federal agents in tactical gear stormed in, weapons drawn. Nobody move, FBI! Chaos erupted. People screamed, dove for cover. The gallery turned into a stampede of terrified bodies. Grace grabbed Mia and held her close, shielding her from the chaos. Nathan Calloway. The lead agent's voice cut through the noise. You're under arrest for drug trafficking, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder. Nathan tried to run. 2 agents tackled him before he made it 3 steps. This is a mistake, Nathan screamed as they pinned him to the floor. I have rights, I want my lawyer. You'll get your lawyer at the federal building. The lead agent hauled him up and slapped cuffs on his wrists, along with a very long list of charges. Grace couldn't breathe. It was happening. It was actually happening. Then the agent turned toward the gallery. Victor Brennan, William Santos, you're also under arrest for obstruction of justice and conspiracy. Grace's heart stopped. No. She tried to push forward, but Patricia held her back. They didn't do anything. They were protecting me. Victor locked eyes with her across the courtroom. It's okay, he mouthed. Take care of Mia. Then the agents were on him, on Bull, cuffing them, dragging them toward the door. Victor! Grace screamed. But he was already gone. The courtroom was in shambles. Judge Coleman was shouting for order. Lawyers were arguing. Federal agents were everywhere, seizing documents, taking photographs, asking questions nobody could answer. Patricia grabbed Grace's arm. We need to go. Now. I can't leave Victor. Victor knew this might happen. He accepted the risk. Patricia's eyes were hard. Right now I need to get you and Mia somewhere safe, before Nathan's people figure out what's going on. His people, Moreno is still out there, and he's going to be very, very angry when he finds out his meal ticket just got arrested. The weight of that truth crashed over Grace like a wave. They were outside the courtroom when a social worker stopped them. Ms. Hartley, I'm from Child Protective Services. Grace's blood ran cold. Given the circumstances of today's hearing, and the arrest of the individuals providing your current residence, I'm required to conduct an emergency welfare check. Mia is fine. She's right here. I'm sure she is. The social worker's face was sympathetic, but firm. But protocol requires me to place the child in temporary protective custody until we can verify that her living situation is safe. No. Grace backed away, clutching Mia tighter. No, you're not taking her. Ms. Hartley, please, this doesn't have to be difficult. You can't do this. The hearing isn't over. The judge hasn't ruled. The judge has recessed the hearing indefinitely due to the federal intervention. Until a new hearing can be scheduled, the child's welfare is my responsibility. Patricia stepped forward. I'm Ms. Hartley's attorney. On what grounds are you removing the child? On grounds that her mother is currently homeless. The clubhouse where she was residing is now an active crime scene, and the individuals who were providing support have been arrested. The social worker pulled out a form. I'm required to ensure Mia has a stable, safe environment. Until that can be established, she'll be placed in emergency foster care. Foster care? Grace's voice cracked. I was in foster care. I know what happens there. I won't let you, Ms. Hartley. The social worker's voice hardened. You can cooperate voluntarily, or I can involve the police. Either way, I'm leaving here with that child. 2 security guards appeared behind her. Grace looked at Patricia, looked at Mia, looked at the world falling apart around her. Please. The word tore out of her like a sob. Please don't take my baby. She's all I have. She's everything. I'm sorry. The social worker reached for Mia. This is temporary. We'll schedule a hearing as soon as possible. Mia started screaming as she was pulled from Grace's arms. The sound was inhuman, primal, the sound of a child being separated from the only safety she'd ever known. Mama! Mama! Mia! Grace tried to follow, but the security guards blocked her. Mia, I'm here. Mama's right here. Mama! The social worker walked away with Mia in her arms. Grace collapsed. Her knees hit the courthouse floor. Her hands clawed at the marble. Her screams echoed off the walls. Mia, Mia! But Mia was gone, and Grace was alone. Patricia found Rosa in the chaos. Between them, they got Grace off the floor, into a car, away from the courthouse. Grace didn't speak, didn't move, just sat in the back seat staring at nothing, tears streaming down her face. We're going to fix this. Patricia said. I'm going to file an emergency motion. We'll get her back. Grace didn't respond. The foster placement is temporary. 24 hours. Maybe 48. Once we establish a new residence, prove you have support. I don't have anything. Grace's voice was dead. Victor's in jail. Bull's in jail. The clubhouse is sealed. Nathan is right. I have nothing. You have us. Rosa's hand found hers. The club is more than those two men. We're family. All of us. And family doesn't abandon family. Mia's in foster care. Grace's voice broke. Do you know what foster care did to me? Do you know what happens to babies in the system? We're going to get her back. You keep saying that. Grace finally looked at her. But how? How are you going to fight the government? How are you going to fight a system designed to take children from mothers like me? Rosa didn't have an answer. They drove in silence. Helen was waiting at her apartment. I saw the news, she said, pulling Grace into a hug. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. They took Mia. I know. They arrested Victor. I know that too. Helen pulled back. But Rebecca called me. The raid on Nathan's property was successful. They found everything. The communications hub, the financial records, enough to put him away for decades. That doesn't bring Mia back. No, but it means Nathan is done. He can't fight for custody from a federal prison. Grace laughed bitterly. It doesn't matter. Even if Nathan's out of the picture, CPS won't give Mia back to a homeless woman with no support system. Then we build a support system. With what the club is in shambles, Victor and Bull are being released. Grace's head snapped up. What? Helen's face softened. Rebecca just called. The obstruction charges aren't going to stick. She's working with the federal prosecutor to get them out tonight. And tonight? The evidence Victor provided against Nathan was obtained legally. He didn't break any laws getting it. The arrest was a formality, a way to separate him from the chaos so they could debrief him properly. Grace's heart started beating again. He's coming back. He's coming back. Helen took her hands. And when he does, we're going to figure this out. Together. For the first time since Mia was taken, Grace felt something other than despair. Hope. Fragile. Desperate. But real. They got word at 9 o'clock. Victor and Bull were being released from federal custody. No charges. Full cooperation credit. Rebecca Torres herself had advocated for their release. Grace waited outside the federal building. The doors opened at 9:47. Victor walked out. He looked exhausted. His suit was rumpled. His eyes were hollow. But when he saw Grace, something in his face came alive. They took Mia. The words tumbled out before she could stop them. CPS took her. She's in foster care. And I couldn't stop them. And I tried Victor. I tried so hard, but they just took her and... Victor crossed the distance between them in 3 strides. He pulled her into his arms. We're going to get her back. How? I don't know yet. But we will. His voice was fierce. Certain. I promise you, Grace. On Rachel's memory. On Sophie's grave. We are going to bring your daughter home. Grace broke. She sobbed into his chest. 3 days of terror and grief pouring out of her. Victor held her through all of it. And somewhere in the city in a foster home, she'd never seen Mia cried for a mother who wasn't there. 3 days passed like 3 years. Grace didn't sleep. Couldn't eat. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard Mia screaming for her. Every time she tried to swallow food, it turned to ash in her mouth. Victor stayed with her, never left her side. He slept on the couch in Helen's apartment while Grace lay awake in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, counting the hours until she could hold her daughter again. Patricia called every few hours with updates that weren't really updates. The emergency hearing was scheduled. The foster family was reputable. Mia was being well cared for. None of it mattered. Mia wasn't with her mother. That was all Grace could think about. On the third morning, Patricia arrived with news. The hearing is tomorrow at 2 o'clock. She sat down across from Grace, her face carefully neutral. Judge Coleman is presiding again. The same judge who let them take Mia. She didn't have a choice. CPS followed protocol. Patricia opened her briefcase. But now we have leverage. Nathan's arrest changes everything. The federal charges are stacking up. Money laundering, drug trafficking, conspiracy to commit murder. He's looking at life without parole. What does that mean for custody? It means his petition is effectively dead. No judge will award custody to a man facing those charges. Patricia pulled out a document. I filed a motion for immediate reunification. With Nathan out of the picture and the club members released, there's no reason to keep Mia in foster care. Hope flickered in Grace's chest. Small. Fragile. You think she'll grant it? I think we have a strong case. Patricia hesitated. But there's a complication. What complication? Rebecca Torres wants Victor to testify before a grand jury tomorrow morning, at the same time as your hearing. Grace's heart dropped. He can't be in two places at once. No, he can't. The words hung in the air. Victor's voice came from the doorway. Then I testify. Grace spun around. What? No. I need you at the hearing. The judge needs to see that you have a support system. Victor walked into the room. His face was drawn but determined. Helen will be there. Rosa. Bull. Half the club. You don't need me. Yes, I do. Grace. He crouched down in front of her. Rebecca's case against Nathan depends on my testimony. If I don't show up, he might walk on some of the charges. He might get a deal. He might be out in 10 years instead of life. I don't care about Nathan. I care about Mia. So do I. That's why I have to do this. Victor took her hands. If Nathan gets out ever, he'll come for you. For Mia. For all of us. The only way to make sure that never happens is to bury him so deep in federal charges that he never sees daylight again. Grace's eyes stung with tears. What if the judge asks for you? What if she wants to question you about the club? Then Patricia tells her I'm testifying in a federal case. Any judge worth her robe will understand. Victor squeezed her hands. You can do this. You're the strongest person I've ever met. Mia needs you to be strong one more time. But Grace wanted to argue, wanted to beg him to stay, but she knew he was right. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Victor pressed his lips to her forehead. I'll be there as soon as I'm done. I promise. The morning of the hearing. Grace woke at 5 o'clock. She showered, dressed in the same navy dress, applied makeup to hide the dark circles under her eyes, looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. You can do this. For Mia. For both of you. Helen drove her to the courthouse. The ride was silent. There was nothing left to say. Patricia met them on the steps. Victor just texted. He's at the federal building. The testimony is scheduled for 9. He should be done by noon. That's 2 hours before the hearing. He'll make it. Patricia's voice was confident. Focus on what's in front of you. They walked inside. The courtroom was the same one. Same wood paneling, same fluorescent lights, same American flag. But everything else had changed. Nathan's table was empty. His lawyers were gone. The plaintiff's side of the courtroom was a ghost town. The gallery, however, was packed. Bull sat in the front row. Another suit, Rosa beside him, Helen, a dozen other club members and their wives, all of them there for Grace. And in the front row on the other side sat a woman Grace had never seen before. She was in her 60s, gray hair, kind eyes, professional clothes. "Who is that?" Grace whispered to Patricia. "The foster mother, Mrs. Delgado." Patricia's voice was tight. CPS brought her to testify about Mia's condition. Grace's stomach lurched. "Is that good or bad? I don't know yet." Judge Coleman entered at exactly 2 o'clock. "All rise." Everyone stood. "Be seated." The judge opened her folder. "We're here today to address the emergency motion for reunification filed by the respondent Grace Hartley. Given the significant developments since our last hearing, I've decided to hear testimony from all relevant parties before making a decision." She looked at Patricia. "Ms. Webb, you may call your first witness." Patricia stood. "I call Grace Hartley to the stand." Grace's legs shook as she walked to the witness box. The bailiff swore her in. She sat down and tried to remember how to breathe. "Ms. Hartley." Patricia's voice was calm, steady. "Please tell the court what happened on the day your daughter was taken into custody." Grace took a breath, and she told them. Everything. The raid, the arrests, the social worker who appeared out of nowhere, the moment Mia was ripped from her arms. Her voice broke when she described Mia's screams. The way she'd reached for her mother. The word mama echoing through the courthouse halls. "And where is your daughter now?" Patricia asked gently. "In foster care." Grace wiped her eyes. "I haven't seen her in 3 days. I haven't been allowed to call. I don't even know if she's sleeping at night, or if she's crying, or if she—" Her voice failed. Patricia gave her a moment, then continued. "Ms. Hartley, tell the court about your living situation before Mia was removed." "I was staying at the Iron Wolves clubhouse, in an apartment above the main building." Grace steadied herself. "I know that sounds bad. I know what people think about motorcycle clubs, but those people saved my life. They took me in when I had nothing, fed me, protected me, helped me get a lawyer I couldn't afford." "And is the clubhouse still your residence?" "No. It was sealed as part of the federal investigation. But I have other options now. Helen Brennan has offered me her guest room. Rosa Santos has offered to help with child care." Grace looked at the gallery. "These people are my family, not by blood, by choice. And they've shown me more love in the past few weeks than I've experienced in my entire life." Patricia nodded. "No further questions." The judge looked at the CPS attorney. "Your witness." The attorney stood, young, nervous, clearly not prepared for a case that had become national news. "Ms. Hartley, you say the Iron Wolves protected you, but isn't it true that some of their members have criminal records?" "Yes." "And isn't it true that the clubhouse has been linked to various illegal activities over the years? Linked, never proven." Grace's voice hardened. "And isn't it also true that the man who tried to take my daughter is now facing life in federal prison for actual crimes, drug trafficking, money laundering, conspiracy to murder, not rumors, not accusations, real charges with real evidence?" The attorney blinked. "I'm asking the questions here." "Then ask better questions." Grace leaned forward. "Ask me about my daughter. Ask me about the nights I stayed up with her when she had a fever. Ask me about the double shifts I worked so she'd never go hungry. Ask me about the hell I escaped to keep her safe." "Ms. Hartley, my daughter was taken from me because I lived with people who looked scary. Not because I was a bad mother, not because I neglected her, because of how things looked." Grace's voice broke, but she kept going. I've spent my whole life being judged for things I couldn't control. Foster care, poverty, an abusive relationship, and every time I tried to do the right thing, the system punished me for it. The courtroom was silent. I'm not perfect, Grace continued. I've made mistakes, but my daughter knows she's loved. She knows she's safe, and she deserves to be with the one person who has never stopped fighting for her. The CPS attorney had nothing. No further questions, he mumbled. Judge Coleman called a 15-minute recess. Grace walked back to the defense table on shaking legs. You did great, Patricia whispered. Really great. Is it enough? I think so, but there's still the foster mother's testimony. When the recess ended, the CPS attorney called Mrs. Delgado to the stand. Grace watched the older woman walk to the witness box. Her heart pounded. Everything depended on what happened next. Mrs. Delgado, the attorney began. You've been caring for Mia Hartley for the past 3 days. Can you describe her condition when she arrived? She was scared, crying, reaching for someone who wasn't there. Mrs. Delgado's voice was soft. It took hours to calm her down. And how has she been since then? Difficult? Not eating well? Not sleeping well? Mrs. Delgado paused. She cries for her mother constantly. Mama, over and over. It's the only word she knows. Grace's heart shattered. In your professional opinion, is Mia Hartley in need of continued protective custody? Mrs. Delgado was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that changed everything. No. The attorney's head snapped up. Excuse me. I've been a foster mother for 32 years. I've cared for hundreds of children, babies who were truly abused, toddlers who flinched at every touch, kids who didn't know what love looked like. Mrs. Delgado's eyes found Grace. Mia is not one of those children. But the circumstances are that a mother who loves her daughter got caught in someone else's war. Mrs. Delgado's voice strengthened. I've watched Mia these past 3 days. She's not traumatized by her mother. She's traumatized by being separated from her mother. Every time she cries, she's reaching for the woman who clearly loves her more than anything in this world. The attorney tried to interrupt, but Mrs. Delgado kept going. I've seen the news. I know about the arrests. I know about the drug charges and the federal investigation. She looked at the judge, and I know that the only person in this whole mess who was trying to protect that baby was the woman sitting at that table. Judge Coleman leaned forward. Mrs. Delgado, are you recommending reunification? I'm saying that if you don't give that baby back to her mother today, you'll be doing more harm than any motorcycle club ever could. The courtroom erupted. Grace couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only stare at this stranger who had just changed everything. The judge called for order. Ms. Webb, Mr. Patterson, do either of you have additional witnesses? Patricia stood. Your Honor, I'd like to submit several character affidavits for the record. Written statements from community members, employers, and associates speaking to Ms. Hartley's character and fitness as a parent. Submitted. The judge looked at the CPS attorney. Patterson shook his head. No further witnesses, Your Honor. Then I'm ready to rule. Judge Coleman removed her glasses, rubbed her eyes. This case has been one of the most unusual I've seen in 30 years on the bench. What started as a custody dispute has become a federal investigation involving drug trafficking, witness tampering, and allegations of coercion. She looked at Grace. Ms. Hartley, I owe you an apology. When this hearing began, I had concerns about your living situation. The Iron Wolves have a certain reputation, and I allowed that reputation to color my judgment. Grace held her breath. But reputations aren't always accurate. I've heard testimony today from people who clearly care about you and your daughter. People who've shown more family values than many blood relatives I've seen in this courtroom." The judge picked up her gavel. "It is the ruling of this court that the minor child, Mia Hartley, be immediately returned to her mother, Grace Hartley. All temporary custody orders are hereby vacated. This case is dismissed." The gavel fell. Grace collapsed. Patricia caught her before she hit the floor. Rosa and Helen rushed forward. Bull was shouting something. People were crying, hugging, celebrating. But Grace could only think one thing. Mia. Mia's coming home. They brought Mia from the foster home 2 hours later. Grace waited on the courthouse steps surrounded by her new family. Victor had texted that he was on his way. The testimony had gone well. Nathan was done. But none of that mattered. Only this moment mattered. A car pulled up. A social worker got out. And there in her arms was Mia. The baby's head was turned away. She was quiet. Too quiet for a child who usually never stopped moving. Then she saw Grace. "Mama." The word was a whisper, a prayer, a question. "I'm here, baby," Grace's voice broke. "Mama's right here." Mia's face crumpled. She reached out with both arms, straining toward her mother with everything she had. Grace ran. She took Mia from the social worker and held her so tight she was afraid she might break her. The baby clung to her neck, sobbing, shaking, saying "Mama, Mama, Mama," over and over like she was afraid to stop. "I'm here," Grace sobbed. "I'm here. I'm never letting you go again. Never." They stood there for what felt like hours, mother and daughter, reunited. The others kept their distance. Let them have this moment. Finally, Mia's sobs quieted. She pulled back and looked at Grace's face. Her tiny hand touched her mother's cheek, as if to make sure she was real. "Mama." "That's right, sweet girl. Mama's here." Mia smiled, and Grace finally let herself believe it was over. Victor arrived 20 minutes later. He'd changed out of his suit somewhere along the way, back in leather, back to himself. But his eyes were wet when he saw Mia in Grace's arms. "Hey, little one." He reached out and let Mia grab his finger. "I missed you." Mia gurgled and reached for his beard. Victor laughed. The first real laugh Grace had heard from him since this whole nightmare began. "The testimony went well?" Patricia asked. "Better than well." Victor's face hardened with satisfaction. "Nathan is finished. Rebecca's got enough to put him away for 3 consecutive life sentences. He'll never see the outside of a prison cell again." "And Moreno, arrested this morning. The feds raided his warehouse, found enough to connect him to 6 open cases." Victor shook his head. "He's done too." Grace felt something loosen in her chest, something that had been coiled tight for months. "It's really over. It's really over." Victor put his hand on her shoulder. "You're safe. Both of you." The group made their way back to Helen's apartment. Someone ordered pizza. Someone else brought beer. The living room filled with people and noise and laughter. Grace sat on the couch with Mia in her lap, watching it all. Rosa was telling a story about Bull's attempt to learn to cook. Bull was defending himself loudly and badly. Helen was laughing harder than Grace had ever seen her laugh. Other club members drifted in and out, all of them stopping to check on Grace, to admire Mia, to offer help. This is family, Grace thought. This is what it's supposed to feel like. Victor sat down next to her. "You okay?" "I don't know." Grace looked at him. I keep waiting for something to go wrong, for someone to show up and take it all away. Nothing's going to go wrong. You can't know that. No, but I can promise you that whatever happens, you won't face it alone. Victor's eyes were steady. You're one of us now. For good. Forever. Mia yawned and snuggled closer to Grace's chest. She's tired, Grace said softly. She's home. Victor reached over and stroked Mia's hair. That's all that matters. The party wound down around midnight. One by one, people said their goodbyes. Bull and Rosa promised to stop by tomorrow. The other club members offered rides. Help. Anything Grace needed. Finally, only Victor and Helen were left. Helen came to sit beside Grace on the couch. Mia was asleep in her arms. Finally peaceful. She's beautiful, Helen said. She looks like you. Thank you. For everything. For letting us stay here. For testifying. For all of it. I didn't do much. You showed up. That's everything. Grace looked at her. When Rachel died, did you ever think you'd find peace again? Helen was quiet for a long moment. No, she finally said. I thought the pain would kill me. Some days I wished it would. She glanced at Victor, who was cleaning up pizza boxes in the kitchen. But then I saw what Victor was doing, how he was trying to find meaning in his grief, and I realized I had a choice. I could let Rachel's death destroy me, or I could let it change me into someone who helps others, like you helped us, like Rachel would have wanted me to. Helen's eyes glistened. My daughter was kind, generous. She saw the best in everyone. When I saw you saw what you were going through, I knew she'd want me to help. I wish I could have known her. She would have loved you, and she would have adored Mia. Helen reached out and touched the sleeping baby's cheek. You're giving Victor something I couldn't, a reason to live, a reason to be the man he always wanted to be. I think he's always been that man. He just couldn't see it. Maybe. Helen stood up. Get some rest. Tomorrow's a new day. She kissed Grace's forehead and went to her room. Victor came in from the kitchen. She's right, you know, about getting rest. I know. Grace looked up at him. But I don't want to sleep. I'm afraid I'll wake up and this will all be a dream. Victor sat down on the coffee table across from her. It's not a dream. I know, but Grace's voice wavered. 3 days ago I had nothing. I was nobody. Just a broke single mother counting coins in a pharmacy. And now I have all of this. Family. Friends. A future. You always had that. Victor leaned forward. You just didn't know it yet. Because of you. Because you stopped to help a stranger. Because you were worth helping. His voice was rough. From the moment I saw you in that pharmacy, I knew. I don't know how. I just knew that you were special. That Mia was special. That both of you were meant to be in my life. Victor, I'm not saying this right. He ran a hand through his hair. I'm not good with words. Never have been. But I need you to know that these past few weeks they've meant something to me. Something I haven't felt in a long time. What? Hope. His eyes met hers. You gave me hope, Grace. When I thought I'd never feel anything again. When I thought the only thing left for me was riding toward oblivion. Grace's heart ached. You saved me too, she whispered. You know that, right? That night in the pharmacy, I was at the end of my rope. I was thinking about things I shouldn't have been thinking about, and then you walked in. I'm glad I did. So am I. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Victor stood. Get some sleep. I'll be on the couch if you need anything. Victor. He stopped. Thank you. For everything. For not giving up on us. He looked at her. At Mia sleeping in her arms. At the life they'd built together in the ruins of their pain. I could never give up on you, he said quietly. Either of you. Then he walked away, and Grace finally let herself close her eyes. 6 months later, the apartment above the clubhouse had been renovated. New paint. New furniture. A proper crib for Mia in the corner. Pictures on the walls of everything they'd been through together. Grace stood at the window, watching the parking lot fill up with motorcycles. Sunday dinner at the clubhouse had become a tradition. Every week the whole family gathered. Food, laughter, stories, home. Mama! Mia toddled over arms up, demanding to be held. At 17 months, she was walking everywhere, into everything, chattering constantly in a language only she understood. Hawk, Hawk, she shouted, pointing at the window. Grace looked. Victor's Harley was pulling in. That's right, baby. Hawk's here. They went downstairs together. The main room was already crowded. Rosa was setting out food. Bull was arguing with someone about football. Helen was showing another member's wife pictures on her phone. Victor walked in, and Mia squealed. Hawk? He scooped her up, swinging her high enough to make her giggle. Hey, princess, were you good for Mama? She's never good, Grace said, smiling. She takes after you. That's my girl. Victor kissed Mia's forehead, then looked at Grace. You look happy. I am happy. She stepped closer. For the first time in my life, I think I'm actually happy. Good. His free arm slipped around her waist. You deserve it. They stood there for a moment, watching their family move around them, the family they'd built from broken pieces and second chances. Bull noticed them and raised his beer. Get over here. Dinner's getting cold. They joined the table. Mia went to Rosa, who spoiled her shamelessly. Victor sat next to Grace close enough that their shoulders touched. Grace was said. Food was passed. Stories were told. And somewhere in the middle of it all, Grace realized she'd stopped waiting for something to go wrong. This was her life now. This was her family. After dinner, Victor pulled her aside. I have something for you. What? He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small box. Grace's heart stopped. Victor, is that it's not what you think. He opened it. Inside was a necklace. A small silver pendant shaped like an angel wing. It was Rachel's. I gave it to her on her 18th birthday. Helen found it when she was going through some boxes. Grace's eyes filled with tears. I can't accept this. Yes, you can. Victor took it out and fastened it around her neck. Rachel would have wanted you to have it. She would have loved you, Grace. Just like I do. Grace's breath caught. What did you say? Victor's face was open, vulnerable, more exposed than she'd ever seen him. I love you, he said. I've loved you since the moment I saw you counting coins in that pharmacy. I love your strength, your stubbornness, the way you fight for your daughter with everything you have. Victor, you don't have to say it back. I know it's complicated. I know I'm older. I know I've got more baggage than any one person should have. But I needed you to know. Whatever happens, whatever you decide, I will always... Grace kissed him. It wasn't planned, wasn't perfect, just sudden and real and everything she'd been afraid to want. When she pulled back, Victor looked stunned. I love you too, she said. I didn't think I'd ever be able to say that to anyone. But I love you. I love our weird, broken, beautiful family. And I love the life we're building together. Victor's face broke into a smile. The first truly joyful smile she'd ever seen from him. Yeah. He kissed her again. Somewhere behind them, Bull whooped. Rosa started clapping. Mia shrieked with delight, even though she had no idea what was happening. And Grace laughed against Victor's lips. This was her family. This was her home. This was the life she'd never dared to dream about. That night after Mia was asleep, Grace stood at the window of their apartment and looked out at the city. So much had changed since that night in the pharmacy. She'd walked in with $12.43. She'd walked out with something money could never buy, a father figure who'd found redemption in protecting her, a community that had opened their hearts without hesitation, a love that had grown from the most unlikely soil. Victor came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. What are you thinking about? Everything. Nothing. She leaned back against his chest. How different things could have been. How lucky we are that they turned out this way. It wasn't luck. His voice was soft. It was you, your strength, your courage. You made this happen, Grace. All of it. I had help. Everyone needs help. He pressed his lips to her hair. The trick is learning to accept it. They stood there together, watching the city lights flicker in the darkness. Victor. Yeah, thank you for seeing me that night, for stopping, for not walking away. I could never walk away from you. He turned her around to face him. You're my family now, you and Mia, and family doesn't walk away. Grace reached up and touched the angel wing pendant at her throat. Family, she repeated. Family, Victor confirmed. And standing there in his arms, surrounded by the rumble of motorcycles and the laughter of people who loved her, Grace Hartley finally understood what that word meant. Not blood, not obligation, choice, love, the courage to help a stranger in a pharmacy, and the strength to let yourself be helped in return.